There's a brief but absolutely critical window in your financial life that holds more leverage than any other. It's that moment you transition major assets, maybe a business or a real estate portfolio, into liquid, mobile capital. This explainer is really for those of you who are preparing for that moment and need a truly global architecture for the borderless life you're building. So let's dive in. This statement right here is the foundational principle of all our work. We're not talking about just completing paperwork. We're talking about intentional design. When you start viewing this transition as a core architectural choice instead of just a task to check off a list, it changes the outcome completely. The decisions you make here literally form the structure of your financial future. The period before your capital becomes liquid, that's where you have maximum influence. This is, without a doubt, the single highest leverage moment you have for strategic planning. It's where the blueprint for the next several decades is drawn. And this applies to very real, tangible events. Think about the sale of a significant real estate portfolio, or maybe a family business. Perhaps you're moving from active rental income to relying on invested capital. For a lot of people, the trigger is a growing discomfort with their tax exposure, or maybe it's just the desire for flexibility, the freedom to live wherever you choose in the future. These are the catalysts. So why does this specific window of time carry so much weight? Why is acting before the transaction so fundamentally different from trying to fix things after the fact? Well, the reason is the long-term impact. The choices you make before liquidation effectively lock in your tax exposure, your operational flexibility, and your financial outcomes for years, sometimes even for generations. Once that capital is liquid and deployed, your ability to optimize that structure across different jurisdictions just narrows dramatically. You lose optionality. And this reality, it exposes a fundamental blind spot in conventional planning. Advice from a purely domestic perspective, no matter how skilled the advisor, has inherent limitations when you're applying it to a mobile, cross-border future. The contrast here is pretty stark. Domestic advice, well, it's designed to optimize within a single country's rules, often for just a single tax year, and it implicitly assumes you're always going to be a resident there. But a borderless life? That requires a design that functions across multiple legal and tax frameworks, one that's durable over time and that is actually engineered for mobility. So the solution then isn't to just find a better domestic advisor. It's to adopt a completely different approach. A strategic, jurisdiction-agnostic design that prioritizes long-term coherence over any short-term, single-country optimization. We call this approach strategic cross-border planning. And as the definition says, it's about the design of a tax and legal architecture for mobile capital. The keywords there are design, architecture, coherence, and flexibility. Not products, not jurisdictions. This design is built on 4 pillars. First, positioning your capital for the long term. Second, achieving structural and defensible tax reduction, not just some temporary relief. Third, making sure the entire structure is aligned with your personal mobility goals. And fourth, and this is crucial, preserving maximum flexibility for future investment and succession decisions. So, what does an engagement that actually delivers this look like? The entire process is centered on providing you with 3 things: clarity, structure, and ultimately control over your own financial architecture. The process delivers a really clear, actionable plan. It starts with a structured diagnostic of your current position. From there, we give you a comparative analysis of viable structuring scenarios, and we clearly articulate the trade-offs and risks of each one. It all culminates in a written strategic framework. Think of it as a blueprint for your family and for your other advisors to follow. The engagement itself is designed for total transparency, a fixed fee, a fixed scope, and a fixed timeline, all disclosed right at the outset. There's no hourly billing. This just removes all the uncertainty and aligns our interests completely with yours, delivering a clear, strategic outcome efficiently. And it's really vital to understand our role here. This is about collaboration, not replacement. We provide that cross-border strategic layer, the architectural plan. Your existing team of accountants, attorneys, and financial advisors are absolutely essential partners who help implement that plan and manage its components. This brings us all the way back to the most critical element: timing. The day you sell your asset, you have to reframe what that day means. It's not the beginning of a new phase. It is the hard deadline for preserving your optionality. Honestly, this is probably the single most important takeaway from our whole discussion. The moment of sale is the point at which your strategic options narrow permanently. It marks the end of that highest leverage period we talked about right at the start.
The distinction is simple, but it's profound. Before liquidation, you are structuring wealth. You are the architect with a clean slate. After liquidation, you're forced into restructuring wealth. And that process is always more costly, more complex, and fundamentally constrained by decisions that have already been made.
So we'll leave you with a question to consider for your own situation. Is your current advisory plan optimized for a life you used to live, a static, single-country existence? Or is it truly an architecture designed for the borderless future you actually intend to build? The answer to that question will define everything that comes next.